Greetings, philosophers. Today we're stepping into the mind of one of history's sharpest thinkers, René Descartes, a man who dared to question everything and ended up laying the foundations for modern philosophy. So get comfy and let's take a stroll through the life and ideas of the man who said, "I think, therefore I am." Picture this. It's the late 16th century and Europe's a mess. The Renaissance is in full swing, science is starting to flex its muscles, and the Catholic Church is still trying to keep a lid on all the new ideas bubbling up. Into this world, in 1596, in a small town in France called La Haye, René Descartes is born. He's a rather sickly child, so frail that his mother dies just a year after he's born, and his father, a lawyer, sends him off to be raised by his grandmother. Not exactly a fairy tale start, but young René's got a spark. He's curious, restless, and already asking questions that make the grown-ups nervous. By age 10, he's packed off to a Jesuit school, La Flèche, one of the best in Europe. The Jesuits are no slouches. They're training students in Latin, Greek, math and theology, trying to mould them into loyal defenders of the church. But Descartes, he's not swallowing everything whole. He's reading the old philosophers, Aristotle, Plato, and starting to think, hang on, this doesn't add up. The world's changing. Galileo's out there with his telescope saying the Earth isn't the centre of the universe. That's heresy to some, but to Descartes, it's a wake-up call. Now, Descartes isn't just a bookworm. He's got a bit of swagger. After school, he studies law, but he's not cut out for boring courtrooms. Instead, he joins the army, not to fight, mind you, but to see the world. This is the early 17th century. The 30 Years' War is tearing Europe apart, and Descartes signs up as a gentleman soldier, travelling through Germany, Hungary, and the Netherlands. He's not swinging a sword, he's sketching battle plans and thinking about math. Yes, math. This is where his brain starts to shine. He's dreaming up ways to describe the world with numbers. Geometry, algebra, the kind of stuff that'll later make him the father of analytical geometry. Ever heard of Cartesian coordinates? That's him. The X and Y axes you cursed in high school. Blame Descartes. But it's not just numbers that get him going. One cold November night in 1619, holed up in a stove-heated room in Germany, Descartes has a revelation. 3 dreams, vivid as anything, hit him like a thunderbolt. He wakes up convinced he's been given a mission to rebuild knowledge from the ground up, using reason as his only tool. No dogma, no assumptions, just clear, logical thinking. This is the turning point. From here, he's not just a guy with a quill, he's a man with a mission to rethink everything. Fast forward a bit, and Descartes is in the Netherlands, living like a philosophical hermit. He loves the Dutch Republic because it's freer than France. He's writing, thinking and dodging controversy. His big idea? Doubt everything. He figures that if you want to know what's true, you've got to strip away all the baggage, tradition, authority, even your own senses. Your eyes can lie, your ears can trick you. Ever seen a stick look bent in water? Exactly. So, Descartes says, let's doubt it all until we find something we can't doubt. And that's where he lands on his most famous line, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Here's the gist. He's sitting there, doubting everything. God, the world, his own body. But the one thing he can't doubt is that he's doubting. If he's doubting, he's thinking. And if he's thinking, he must exist. It's a simple but earth-shaking idea. It's like finding a single unshakable brick to build a whole new house of knowledge on. For Descartes, this is the foundation. Everything else, God, the universe, reality, has to be built on that one certainty. Now, let's talk about his writings, because this is where Descartes really shines. His first big book, Discourse on the Method, comes out in 1637. It's not some dry academic tome. It's written in French, not Latin, so regular folks can read it. He's trying to reach people like you and me, not just stuffy scholars. In it, he lays out his method for finding truth. Break problems down into small parts, reason step by step, and never accept anything as true unless it's clear and undeniable. It's like a recipe for thinking clearly, and it's so practical you could use it to solve a math problem or figure out what to cook for dinner. Then comes Meditations on First Philosophy in 1641, his masterpiece. This is where he takes you on a wild ride through doubt, God, and the nature of reality. He's wrestling with big questions. How do I know the world exists? Could an evil demon be tricking me into believing in it? Yeah, he goes there. Matrix-level stuff centuries before Keanu Reeves. He argues that God exists because we have this idea of a perfect being, and only a perfect being could have planted that idea in us. It's a tricky argument, and not everyone buys it, but it shows how Descartes is trying to bridge reason and faith. He also gets into the mind-body problem, which is still a head-scratcher today. Descartes says the mind and body are separate things. Your body's like a machine, bones, muscles, nerves, all ticking along like clockwork. But your mind, that's something else entirely, a non-physical thinking thing that's connected to the body but not bound by it. This idea, called dualism, is huge. It's why we still talk about the mind-body connection. But it also raises questions he never quite answers. How does the mind talk to the body? If they're so different, how do they work together? Descartes wasn't just a philosopher, he was a scientist too. He wrote about optics, meteorology, even anatomy. He dissected animals to figure out how hearts work, and he was one of the first to suggest that the body runs on mechanical principles. But his science wasn't always spot on. He thought the pineal gland, a tiny blob in the brain, was where the mind and body hooked up. Spoiler, it's not. Still, his willingness to poke around and ask questions helped pave the way for modern science. Now his ideas got him in some hot water. The Catholic Church wasn't thrilled about his questioning everything, and his books ended up on the banned list after his death. He was cautious, though. He didn't want to end up like Galileo, under house arrest, so he kept a low profile, moving around, publishing carefully. He even wrote a book, The Passions of the Soul, to show he wasn't anti-religion. It's about how emotions work, how the mind can control the body's wild impulses. It's almost like an early self-help book, but with more philosophy and fewer buzzwords. By the 1640s, Descartes is a big deal, but he's not exactly living the high life. He's tutoring a Swedish princess, Christina, who's brilliant but demanding. She makes him wake up at 5 a.m. for lessons in the freezing Stockholm winter. Descartes, the guy who loved his cosy bed and late mornings, isn't thrilled. In 1650, he catches pneumonia and dies at 53. It's a sad end for a man who changed how we think, but his ideas, they're immortal. So, why does Descartes matter today? His method of doubt, his focus on reason, his insistence on questioning everything, they're the roots of modern science and philosophy. Every time you demand evidence, every time you break a problem down to solve it, you're channeling Descartes. He taught us to trust our own thinking, to not just accept what we're told. In a world full of fake news, algorithms and endless opinions, that's a lesson we could all use. But he also leaves us with questions. If the mind and body are separate, what are we, really? Are we just brains piloting meat robots? And if we doubt everything, how do we ever know what's true? Descartes didn't have all the answers, but he gave us the tools to keep asking. That's his gift, a challenge to think for ourselves, to wrestle with the big stuff, and to never stop wondering. Thanks for joining me today. Next time, we'll dive into another thinker who shook the world. Until then, keep questioning, keep thinking, and maybe even try saying, I think, therefore I am, in the mirror. It's catchier than you'd expect. See you soon.